Hello, it's your boy McAvoy. How are we? This is the final video podcast in the topic of 1.2.1, looking at the healthy mind and the body. And what we have already covered, we've looked at somatotypes, optimum weight, weight-related conditions, and performance-enhancing drugs. So this is the last video podcast on this topic. Today we're going to look at risk assessment and balanced competition. And what I want you to learn from this video podcast is how we can make sport fair and safe. Alright? And by the end of this video, you should be able to name ways that we can keep sport safe and balanced. You should be able to describe how sport can be kept safe and balanced, and you should be able to link it to specific examples in sport too. So, risk assessment and preventing injury. And this is high on the agenda of every single sport, whether you're a coach, a participant, or an official, or you work in a governing body. It's really important that you, above all else, that the participants are kept safe. And we can do that by doing risk assessments and putting some really simple things in place to prevent injury from happening. The key is with any risk assessment is trying to minimise the amount of risk to injury that there is. It's always very difficult to eradicate it, but if we can minimise it, that is obviously going to be beneficial to the participants. You need to know the different ways that sports do that. So the first way that sports can prevent injury is by warming up and cooling down. So remember, anything that's underlined, just make sure you jot that down. Now, warming up the muscles will help to obviously prevent injury, because if you go into exercise without a warm up, then the blood will not be flowing to those working muscles, and that could cause muscle tears and muscle injuries. Cooling down at the end of exercise will help to disperse lactic acid, and that can also reduce muscle soreness and then hopefully prepare the participant for the next bout of exercise or maybe the next game. So warming up and cooling down is one way to prevent injury. Another simple way, and you see this happen in lots of sports activities, particularly in football, you might see the official just checking the equipment and checking that it's safe. They may check things like goals, flags, the surface that the participants are playing on. They may also check the equipment such as a ball or maybe a racket in a racket sport, and they'll also check things like footwear to ensure that that's safe as well, and that's an important part of reducing injury. Another way to prevent injury is through wearing protective equipment and clothing. So in sports such as football, you have shin pads and shin guards. In hockey, you might have a hockey mask. In rugby, you might wear a gum shield or a hat. And you may in basketball wear trainers that maybe cover the ankles, prevent ankles rolling and causing injuries to those ankles. So there are different ways that you can do that, and obviously in all sports, jewellery shouldn't be worn, and a simple check is to check the footwear before and during the game to make sure it's safe. Obviously, during any sport, there is the danger of competition causing injury and other players and participants injuring other people. That's why we have rules in place, and rules are there for two reasons really: to make competition fair, but also to maintain the safety. So you'll see different rules in different sports, and you'll see officials delivering sanctions when anybody breaks the rules, and that's there to keep people safe. If you can imagine a sport without any rules, then potentially then injury could be very common. Fines and bans are also there for people who are breaking rules in different sports. Another way to prevent injury and try and reduce the likelihood of having it is by completing what's called a PARQ, or a physical readiness questionnaire. Whenever you join a gym, or maybe you start a new club, you'll have to fill in a simple questionnaire, and it basically just tells the coach or the instructor if you've got any injuries or illnesses that may cause you further injury. So if you find out that maybe you've got asthma, then that will come up in your PARQ, and your instructor or coach can make sure that you've got an inhaler for every time you exercise. You can find those online, and you will fill one in when you join the gym. What we're going to look at now is the second part of this presentation, which is looking at balanced competition. And balanced competition is important also to making sure that participants are safe, and also making sure that competition is fair. And you see some examples that I'm going to show you now. So the first way that competition is balanced in sports is through a handicap system, and it's just a way of ensuring that you can have maybe an amateur or a professional, people of different abilities, compete against each other in a fair way. It also allows you to highlight people who are very skilled or talented in the sport and people who are not so skilled and talented, and generate separate competitions. You see this happen in golf a lot, and you see that each participant will have a handicap. So that allows me, who's got a very poor handicap, to compete against Tiger Woods and compare our scores in a fair way, even though that one is better than the other. So handicap systems happen in golf. The second way that we can keep competition balanced is through weight categories, and you see this in boxing, in judo, in weightlifting, and lots of different sports. And that's basically where sports divide up their participants into weight categories. So for example, in boxing, you might have super heavyweight, heavyweight, middleweight, etc. And then that allows the competition to be fair and also safe. If you imagine maybe a super heavyweight boxing against a super flyweight, then obviously there are health implications and there are dangers there as well. So weight categories is one way of keeping competition fair and safe. Another way of keeping competition fair and safe is by categorising the participants by age. And you see this in lots and lots of sports, most sports actually. And you'll see it in table tennis, football, rugby, basketball, badminton, whereby you'll be categorised by your age, and that may range from a youth league all the way up to an open age league, all the way up to a veteran league where you have to be over a certain age to participate. And that will allow it to be fair and safe as well. Another way of categorising and balancing sport is by categorising by a person's gender. So some sports, particularly contact sports, tend to be male and female, and other sports tend to be mixed, such as badminton, tennis, with maybe not contact. So in rugby you have female rugby teams and leagues and male rugby teams and leagues, and again that allows it to be safe and fair. There are some instances where sports are mixed, so for example in badminton too. So in summary, it's only a short topic. What you need to know the different ways that we can prevent injury, and they are by warming up, cooling down, checking equipment and facilities, protective equipment, and park you, and playing to the rules. And these are the 4 ways that competition is balanced in sport: through weight, mixed and single sex, age, and through a handicap system. If you want to take your learning a little bit further, I encourage you to maybe do this little bit of further study. Try and find the most dangerous sport on the planet and find out what measures they take to prevent injury in that sport. And also have a little, just Google some PARQ questionnaires online and just read the sort of types of questions that are asked on a PARQ. Okay, thank you.